Hey guys, William Murphy here. Welcome back to the channel, welcome back to my garage, and welcome to another video. In today's episode, we are working once again on a car that has been on the channel previously, the Dacia Sandero. Now the Dacia came in previously for some suspension work. The MOT is coming up for renewal, and the wipers have decided to stop working. Now because this is a Renault-based vehicle, it's not uncommon for the wipers to fail because quite frankly, they are awful. We've had a Renault Clio and a Renault Megane, and on both of those, multiple motors were fitted to those vehicles. Anyway, I've got a new motor, the car is here, so let's get it in and let's get started with today's video. Right, there we go. As you can see, well, the wipers are kind of stuck up at the moment. I can get them to work. This is on obviously the first speed, but they are very intermittent. So first speed, it's just second, third. Oh, there you go. Second, they've obviously stopped again. Now this isn't ideal. We need to sort this out. So it's not a huge task to sort. A bit of stripping is required, so let's park them there. So yeah, stripping is required. Let's get into this job. Let's show you step by step how to do it, and hopefully we can rectify this relatively easily and get the car back to the owner in quick fashion. So first task, bonnet release. So as I say, Renaults have I guess it's a common fault really with Renaults, of having a failure on the wiper system. I don't know if it's just unlucky or whether it's just something they have, but as I say, this is a very Renault-based product, so they're all very much of a muchness. You can compare this pretty much to a Renault Clio, so there's not a lot to it, but everything is really accessible, which is fantastic. So let's show you a little bit closer up what I'm going to do, and let's get it done. Okay, so some bits need to be stripped apart so far. Washer jets kind of need to come out because I need to disconnect or take off this scuttle panel. There may be an option to leave it in place, but there's a joint in the middle, so you may as well take it apart. This wiper arm needs to come off, as does this wiper arm, and then the scuttle panel as a whole needs to be removed. Someone's been in it previously because all the bolts are actually missing. So there's like fixings here, and there's two the other side as well, which are all not present. So this trim can come off, and then that will expose obviously the washer system. Let's disconnect this union and let's start taking apart. These caps will come off, and underneath typically like a 13mm, that one there maybe looks like a 14, 15 possibly. And then if they don't come off easily, there's a little trick to get them off, which is by lifting the arm and wiggling it. If they don't come off, I do have a puller, which will work on that. And then the motor is just behind here, and I've got the new motor to go in, ready to go. Right, so to pull these apart, I'm probably going to lose a little bit of fluid, but it's not the end of the world here. There you go, just pull apart. Go out the way over there. These are actually a 16mm. You want to hold on to the arm when you're doing them, and that's really easily. Two nuts. Now let's see. Now the typical way you do it, there's a kink in it so it will bend. You lift them up like this, and then you give it a bit of a rock, and they fall off. Really straightforward. Now the other thing to use will be one of these. This goes over the arm, like so. And then you wind the tool down to push on the stud and it lifts everything off. I don't think I'll need that today, but let's see. There you go. Lovely. Now I just need to remember which side came from where. So typically I lie them out as they come off the car. I need a torqued head for there. Possibly one for over there, and then the panel will lift out. I will be putting some fittings in there to make sure that obviously go back together. Okay, that's a T40. And the T40 torque. So there's only a plastic fitting, so it might be like a quarter turn. It looks like that is the case. Sometimes people just go crazy and put a socket or something onto this, onto an impact gun, and wind it off. And then before you know it, you're in a world of hurt because everything is broken, everything is snapped. Move this side. There you go. Just lifts off, and then it all manoeuvres out of place. At the corners on the end, the panels are overlapped, so the scuttle is underneath and the panel is on top. So for this side, I've lifted it up just to clear it from there, and then that will then lift out the vehicle nice and easily. I think exposing everything you need in here. There we go. Take that out. So up here, I can almost tell what the issue is straight away, is that there is an awful lot of water sitting in this recess here. So that isn't ideal in the slightest. The motor itself is underneath the housing, so I've got a 10mm, a 10mm and a 10mm. And with the 3 10mm undone, that should then also fall out. So that's one. Two. And the third here. Now typically on these as well, they've got a drain. So if the drain becomes blocked, water will sit in there, and mixing waters and plastic water and electrics, it's never going to work. So I would suggest that's probably the issue of why this system's failed so quickly. So you can see full access here. The 3 bolts have been removed, and then I've got to basically lift this unit out. Now it's going to be a bit of a struggle, a bit of a fiddle. Need to be careful here it doesn't hit the glass, because then it might smash. But what I have to do is just lift the motor past here, maybe a little bit of a squeeze, but it should. There we go. And then that is the motor and arm all out. And you can see the amount of water that's already dripping off that. I'll disconnect the electrical plug. And then we have this out of the car. Take it to the workbench and replace it. Just bring it a little bit closer so you can see. This is what I was saying about the water. If I just go along here, in here somewhere, there is actually, there it is, there's a drain. So now I've unblocked the drain, that water's all drained away. The sitting water is no longer surrounding the motor, although it's all over my garage floor now. That is going to be much, much easier, and you haven't got to worry about that. So I will scoop all this mud out and make it all nice and fresh in here. and obviously ensure that we're not going to have any issues going forward. And this motor that I'm replacing now should last significantly longer than the one that I'm taking out. Okay, so the motor itself is off. As I lifted the motor up, you could see all the water pouring out of this unit. So it's obviously due a change. Now, a couple of things I need to undo here. First of all is going to be this little mechanism here. And this is obviously what gets the motor going back and forth, or round and round. Let's just undo that. That's much like the arms, this might be a little bit seized on. And then flip her over. Oh, not seized at all, so just fell off. You've got another linkage there which isn't part of the mechanism. So with this section of the arm off, I've got 3 bolts here, which is T30, sorry, yeah. I can take these 3 here off. I'm hoping the new one comes with new hardware because these are a little bit rounded. And you can see from here how it's going to come out, but all of this shaft here is just saturated in water, all from the joint, and probably, if I turn it upside down, this might leak water onto my hand, which you can see on my palm. So the unit itself is full of water, the terminals inside are full of water, everything on this is just full of water. And if I shake it, you can also hear the water inside. So, long overdue. I do have a replacement part. Now this is classed as an OEM part. How OEM, I'm not sure. It was, in the scheme of things, very, very cheap. Now what I like to do on this channel is I like to save people money. So the local garage actually quoted £380 plus VAT plus labour for fitting one of these. So that's not what I'm all about. I like to try and save you money. This unit here was about £25. So it's a like-for-like unit. They class it as OEM. I have fixing kits here for 2 of, and also a wiring loom extension should this plug not be correct, and this one need extending. But this one here is a like-for-like plug. So ideal. I've also got 3 new fitting bolts. These can go. So to fit it up, it's basically the reverse. So you line it up and you've got 3 bolt holes, 3 screws. 1, 2, 3. Now what I do actually want to invest in, which I haven't been really that keen on previously, is a DeWalt driver. So I can fit a socket onto it and tighten them up. I have got a drill with some attachment pieces, but a specific driver, the DeWalt one especially, because all my other stuff is DeWalt, and then I can quickly just wind these nuts down. I won't obviously gun them up tightly, but just threading things on is going to be much easier. And then tighten that. Okay, those 3 are tight. I can then fit this mechanism back on where it needs to go with a new nut. Now, I'm not going to do it just yet, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it into the vehicle. I'm going to plug it in, fit the motor into place, and I'm going to switch it on. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because whilst this arm's off, if this happens to move around like so, and I put them on now, then what's going to happen is the resting position of those arms is going to be wrong. So it might go too far or too low. So it's always advisable to plug it all in, switch them on for one rotation, let them set and park, attach everything up, and then obviously fit the arms accordingly. So this is all now replaced. Let's get back to the car and let's fit this back in and get it all sorted. Okay, so off camera I've cleaned all the mud and the dirt from in there, and that's all now good to go. The drain hole is also unblocked, so that can just siphon the water out as and when it fills up. It's a real rubbish location because the water runs off the screen straight into there, and if that hole's blocked, it has nowhere to go. It's just going to settle down and obviously do what it's done. So let's get the new motor system in, the new linkage in, and then we'll test it, then we'll connect everything up, and hopefully that'll be it. And I'll reassemble the scuttle, job done. Okay, so my electrical plug, it's got a cap and fitting, so they just literally clip on until you hear a click. It's not particularly a very prominent click, but a click is a click. And then you fit this in reverse, so that there goes inside. And fitting things back in typically is much easier than taking them back out. Firstly, because you know how they go, and secondly, they tend just to fall back into the right location. Let's pull this around to here. I'm just going to screw these in loosely so it's in the right place. Okay, so I'm going to turn that on, and obviously this linkage isn't going to move, but the arm and the spindle is going to go and return to the correct location. Here we go. Now going off. So that's now parked. Yeah, that's now parked in the location I want it to. So this will then fit on exactly in place. I'll put the nut on it, tighten the nut down, and then we can start reassembly. Now by doing this, as I say, I know that this is now the parked position, so I can put my arms accordingly, and it's not going to be all over the place. Don't go too crazy when you're tightening this. It does obviously wants to be tight and doesn't want to come loose. And as the saying goes, tight is tight and too tight is fudged. At least that's what I think it is. So that's the first one done. The second one I'm going to use a 10mm and tighten these fixings down. Okay, so that's everything tight. 3 fixing bolts, the 3 bolts holding the motor on, the bolt holding the linkage on. Next thing to go on is the scuttle. And you can see from back here, this is the screw that I said earlier, and it's just literally a quarter turn and it locks it underneath the windscreen. You've got fixings under here as well, and there's also a seal that fits up against the glass. So I need to put the passenger side in first because there's a gas strut, and I also need to, over here, I also need to replumb the washer pipe through this hole. So that's then fitted there. Because it's plastic, there is a bit of flexibility and movability in this. I just need to make sure that goes underneath this clip on the side as well. And over here, just a bit of a fiddle. And then just make sure that it's clipped down along the windscreen, so the water runs off the screen onto the scuttle rather than straight down into the void. can see along here it's nice and smooth. Along here it's nice and fitted. All my holes are lined up as well, which is grand. That's what that screw was then. Here I have a fixing screw, which was interestingly underneath the scuttle. So these here are like a trim clip for a wheel arch, and they've got like a outer raw plug. Push it through, pop the centre through, and that's a much better fit, nice and tight too, which is fantastic. We don't want this rattling loose and coming off. One for that side, one over here as well. So do that a quarter of a turn, which will turn by hand. That's secured that, which is fantastic. Right, next up, wiper arms. Now they go on pretty much the same way. The hole gets lined up. Bend that and set it to roughly where you want it to be. You set it too high, when it goes round it will catch. You set it too low, when it goes down it will obviously go too far. Typically you want it to be nearly touching the bottom, and then as it has its swoop it will come to rest quite naturally. So that one. The second one. Getting fitted lovely. You know, this has been a really nice job. There's some things I enjoy doing, there's some things I don't enjoy doing. And this has been a real nice one. Okay, that's tight. Plastic cap. And then lastly, I've just got to route this washer pipe through here before the final stage, which is refitting that seal. Push that back on there, and we'll test that before it goes back together. I've got a screw to fit up here. Just notice there's a screw in the middle as well. So 2 screws fitted, job done. So now that scuttle panel is absolutely solid. The last piece of the puzzle, obviously before it's being tested, and I have every bit of faith in this. Tools out the way. Tools and torch. Everything is tight, everything is back together. Stick this in here. Lower this down. Things to test are going to be washers and wipers. But as I say, every bit of confidence here. Washers, different speeds, beautiful. Right, and there we have it. Works complete on the Dacia Sandero, the washers, the wipers, everything's working as it should, and all for about 25-ish pounds. I think £25 plus the shipping, so it saves an absolute fortune for the owners. It means that they haven't got to spend well in excess of £400 to get this job sorted, and within about 30 minutes this is sorted. I could have done it much quicker had I not been discussing it and talking through the camera. However, it's a job well done, and I'm really pleased that this car is sorted and ready for its MOT. So that brings an end to today's video. If you have enjoyed it, please hit that thumbs up button, comment down below. And if you haven't done so already, consider becoming a subscriber to the channel. It really, really means a lot to me. And I just want to say thank you for all of you who have already subscribed, and thank you if you are considering hitting that button right now. The Dacia Sandero completed it, mate. Until next time, take it easy.